Hello and welcome to the AI Affairs podcast. Today we're doing a crucial deep dive, and we're not looking at some distant future of AI. We're looking at right now.
The immediate present.
Exactly. There's a really disruptive shift happening at the very base of the workforce. We're calling it the entry-level squeeze. And our mission today is to take the hard numbers and figure out, how organizations can actually adapt, especially with smarter training.
That's right. And to really cut through the noise, we're leaning on some very solid data. We've basically got three pillars for this whole analysis.
Okay.
First, that huge Stanford ADP working paper. It gives us near real-time U.S. payroll data, which is just incredible. That goes right up through July 2025.
Oh, really current.
Super current. Then we have corroborating analysis from the UK labor market. And maybe the most fascinating part, on-the-ground insights from major AI adoption pilots.
Like the Google and Public First one.
Exactly, the AI Works initiative.
Yeah.
So this lets us move past the general fear and pinpoint exactly which workers, not just which jobs, are feeling the pressure today.
And here's the fact that should grab every single one of you listening, whether you're a new grad or a CEO. The data shows generative AI is already linked to a staggering 13% employment decline for young workers in exposed roles.
It's a huge number.
It is. This is not a theory. It's a shockwave, and it is reshaping the entire career ladder, starting right at the very first rung. So let's just start with that 13% figure because it is so specific, and frankly, it's alarming.
It is, and it's coming from millions of payroll records in that Stanford ADP paper. It's an almost real-time snapshot of the economy.
And what they found was that for early career workers, we're talking ages 22 to 25.
The ones just starting out.
Right. In jobs that are highly exposed to AI automation, they've seen a 13% relative decline in employment since late 2022.
And that data is so important. That's right when large language models, LLMs, just exploded into the commercial world.
The timing isn't a coincidence, but what's really shocking to me about that number is the internal contrast.
Yeah, this part is key. If AI were just, wiping out entire job categories, you'd see declines for everyone in that role.
You would. Customer service, junior developers, whatever.
But the research shows that workers over 30 in the exact same exposed jobs are stable. Some are even advancing.
So the hit is hyper-focused on the new entrants.
Exactly. This tells you it isn't about AI replacing a job title. It's about AI replacing the way we learn on the job, the way we gain experience.
And it's not just a U.S. thing. We saw the same pattern in the U.K. analysis.
The U.K. firms with those highly exposed workforces, they cut back on hiring for junior positions by about 5.8%.
So the trend is consistent. The on-ramp into a career is it's shrinking globally.
And if you zoom out even more, the total number of entry-level job postings, the white-collar, information-heavy ones, they're down about 35% since January 2023.
35%, that's massive.
It is. And it's leading to these noticeably flatter organizational structures. It even hits middle management because AI is doing a lot of that early synthesis work now. But the deepest cut, by far, is at the bottom.
This whole thing just attacks the core story we've told ourselves about work for decades,
The corporate mobility narrative.
Yes. The CEO who started in the mailroom, the tech exec who started on the help desk, that whole idea that you can join a company at the bottom, learn the ropes, and climb.
It depends on there being a bottom.
It depends on that first rung existing. If that starting point just disappears, how do you ever get the practical experience you need to become an expert later on?
And to understand why it's targeting young people so specifically, we have to look at the mechanism. How is AI actually being used?
Right.
The Stanford research breaks it down into two types, automative and augmentative.
Okay, let's unpack that because that feels like the core of the whole issue. Automative versus augmentative.
Automative is pretty simple. The AI does the task for you. Think of basic data entry, or fixing minor bugs in code, or drafting a standard legal document.
The machine does the work.
Exactly. Augmentative, on the other hand, is when the AI helps you do a task better or faster. It's a thought partner, a research assistant.
And the big finding is that the job losses are all concentrated, where AI is being used in that automative way.
Heavily concentrated.
Yeah.
In roles where the use is augmentative, that entry-level decline is much smaller. Sometimes it's even positive.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about the experience gap, right? We hired junior employees to handle codified, trainable tasks.
The stuff you can write down in manual.
Exactly. It's the low-hanging fruit for automation. Why would you pay a junior developer to fix small bugs if an AI can do it with almost no human oversight?
Contrast that with an experienced worker. Their value comes from tacit knowledge.
That gut feeling, the intuition.
The unwritten judgment, the political savvy, the deep technical understanding you only get from years on the job, that's what AI can't replicate.
So for the expert, the AI is a supercharger. But for the novice, it's a replacement.
That's the dynamic.
But that really flies in the face of what a lot of us worried about originally. If you look at older research, like the MIT Sloan data up to 2023, the greatest AI exposure was in these really high-paying roles: management analysts, aerospace engineers, computer scientists.
The information processing jobs.
Right. You'd think those would be the first to go.
And this is where the nuance is so critical, and why generative AI specifically is such a game changer. Historically, between 2014 and 2023, those highly exposed, high-paying jobs, they actually grew.
Wait, they grew, even though they were the most exposed. Why?
Because the companies that were adopting AI were also growing faster.
Yeah.
They were more productive, they were expanding, and they needed more people to manage all that increased output.
So AI was a growth engine, not a job killer.
In that context, yes. The human was needed to interpret, to strategize. But the new data, the post-late 2022 Gen AI surge, it suggests that pattern is shifting. Generative AI can just do a much wider range of those intermediate white-collar tasks. So it's intensifying the substitution effect, but specifically at the entry level, where the tasks are easiest to codify and automate. The high-level jobs are still augmenting, but the low-level jobs are now automating away.
So the career ladder isn't so much broken as it is reshaped. It's becoming flatter, but also steeper.
That's a great way to put it.
The new entry level is basically a mid-level role. It demands advanced skills right out of the gate: critical thinking, synthesis.
And that creates this immense, unprecedented pressure on new graduates. You're now expected to have those high judgment skills before you even get your first job.
You have to show up ready for augmentation, not as a novice who needs training.
That's the core economic shift.
Yeah.
Companies used to pay you to learn the codified stuff. Now, Gen AI handles the codified stuff, so companies demand you show up with the tacit knowledge on day one.
And new graduates are forced to get that through, internships, personal projects, expensive certifications?
Pretty much. They're essentially paying for their own entry-level training.
So if we look at the data again, what jobs are actually surviving this? What's resilient?
Well, the patterns are really clear. The resilient roles are the ones with a high degree of direct human-to-human interaction.
Things that require empathy and complexity management?
Exactly. High-level sales reps, account managers. Those roles remain strong because building human relationships is still, a human job.
That makes sense. And what about the growth areas? Within these AI-heavy companies, what's booming?
It's the jobs that demand that high-level judgment. Legal jobs, for instance. They saw a projected employment increase of 6.4%.
So the AI isn't doing the lawyer's job.
No, but it's in firms that are heavily adopting AI. It just reinforces this idea that the market now favors people who can synthesize huge amounts of information and apply human judgment. The skills gap isn't just technical anymore. It's a judgment gap.
Which brings us to the big organizational challenge. If your talent pipeline is shrinking, how do you survive? How do you make sure your existing workforce is augmenting and not getting automated?
Right.
Let's turn to the solution side of this, because the Google and Public First AI Works pilot has some really interesting data here. They tried to figure out why workers weren't using these new tools.
And the assumption going in was, it must be confidence or maybe a lack of technical skill.
But that wasn't it.
No. The biggest surprise was that the main barrier was perceived relevance. Workers basically said, this is a cool tool, but what does it have to do with my job?
They just couldn't see the point. So what did the intervention look like? Was it some massive, expensive program?
It was incredibly simple. Just a few hours of tailored, task-specific training. That's it.
And the effect?
It completely transformed behavior. For workers and small businesses and for teachers, that minimal training doubled their daily AI usage. For union members, it tripled it.
Wow. From just a few hours of training.
It's a huge shift. This wasn't a big corporate overhaul. It was just targeted, relevant instruction.
The productivity gains must have been off the charts to justify even that small investment.
Oh, absolutely. The study calculated a stunning 10-to-1 return on investment for the training.
A 10-to-1 ROI.
Yeah. The cost of a few hours of training is tiny compared to the projected 122 hours of work time saved per person per year. The ROI is so high because the barrier relevance and habit was such low-hanging fruit.
And the social impact here feels even more important. This wasn't just helping the youngest, most tech-savvy workers get even better.
Not at all. It actively closed the demographic adoption gap.
What did it do for older workers?
For women over 55, daily usage nearly tripled. It jumped from 9% to 29%. And for all workers over 55, it went from 13% daily use up to 35%.
That's incredible. It actually turns AI into a tool that closes the digital divide instead of widening it.
That transformation happens because the training helps build a new habit. When people see that tangible benefit saving over 122 hours a year, they keep using it.
And they find new ways to use it.
Exactly. 70% of the participants had discovered a new personal use for AI 3 months later. It wasn't just what they were taught.
That's the real sign of successful adoption, isn't it? When people start integrating it creatively.
Precisely. We saw these amazing examples. People using AI for complex brainstorming by having it simulate feedback from different roles in the company.
Oh, that's clever.
Or teachers instantly adapting lesson plans for students with special needs. A task that used to take hours, now done in seconds.
The sources also mentioned something I found fascinating, that AI was seen as a powerful equalizer.
Yes. This was a huge finding. It gave incredible support to neurodivergent individuals by helping them structure complex information.
And for non-native English speakers.
It was a game changer, helping them draft clear, professional communication. It just leveled the playing field for internal comms.
But even with all those benefits, there was one last hurdle, a very human one.
The permission to prompt problem.
Explain that.
Well, some people, like the teachers, worried that using AI was a form of cheating, or union members didn't have a clear policy from their employer. There was this institutional uncertainty.
A fear that you might be doing something wrong or that it makes you look less competent.
It does. And that uncertainty can stall adoption completely, even if the tool is useful. The research is very clear. You need positive, explicit policies from leadership.
Companies have to actually give their workers permission to use it.
Explicit permission. You have to remove that fear. If you do that, the proven productivity gains and habit formation can take over.
Basically, if the tool is easy to use and your boss says, yes, please use this to save time, the rest will solve itself.
Pretty much.
So, to summarize what we've unpacked here today, the AI employment squeeze. It's real, it's immediate, and it's hitting entry-level workers the hardest. It's automating the very tasks we used to use for training.
And it's flattening that traditional career ladder.
But the solution is actually highly scalable. We're talking short, targeted training that focuses on augmentation and habit building. That offers a staggering 10-to-1 ROI.
And it helps close those demographic skill gaps at the same time.
The critical takeaway for any organization listening has to be this. The survival of your future talent pipeline really hinges on redesigning that first rung of the ladder and doing it today.
Absolutely. If AI now handles the transfer of codified knowledge, then entry-level roles in training have to shift entirely. They have to focus on what AI can't do.
High-level critical thinking, nuanced judgment.
Interpersonal skills, stakeholder management. Companies need to be aggressively investing in these augmentation workflows right now, or they risk waking up in 5 or 10 years with no experienced leaders in the pipeline.
Thank you for listening, and see you next time on AI Affairs.